The fiscal deficit announcement by the government beat street expectations. Prime Minister AWAS Yojana Gramin. The government said they're close to achieving the target of 3 crore houses. The Finance Minister announced that over the last 10 years, tax collections have more than doubled. Hello and welcome to Weekly Economic Insights, your weekly dose of news that impacts your personal finances. I am Ridhima Bhatnagar. This is a budget special. The interim budget was presented on the 1st of February by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Now, essentially, this was an interim budget because the country will see general elections somewhere around April to May this year. Now, usually, an interim budget is seen as a vote of account or as a stopgap till the entire budget is presented or till a full budget is presented. So let's bring you the top takeaways of Budget 2024. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman stressed and focused his speech around the poor, the youth, the women and farmers. The budget also focused on fiscal consolidation, infrastructure, agriculture, green growth, as well as sectors like railways. The government said the next 5 years will be years of unprecedented development and to realize the goal of becoming a developed country by 2047, also adding the trinity of democracy, demography and diversity can fulfill aspirations of every Indian. Let's now get down to the brass tacks. Let's bring you the big numbers. The fiscal deficit announcement by the government beat street expectations. The government said the FY25 fiscal deficit target was at 5.1% of the GDP. The FY24 fiscal deficit target was also revised down to 5.8% of the GDP from a 5.9% earlier. The fiscal deficit for the first 9 months of FY24 till December stood at Rs 9.82 lakh crore or 55% of the annual estimates. Let's now talk about CAPEX or capital expenditure, something that has been a big pattern with the governments in the previous budgets as well. Building on the massive tripling of the capital expenditure outlay in the past 4 years, resulting in huge multiplier impact on economic growth and employment creation, the outlay for the next year is now being increased by 11.1%, and this would be 3.4% of the GDP. Let's now talk about taxes. Now, this of course has a lot of interest from the common man. Unfortunately, there were no changes that were seen in the tax regime in this budget. The Finance Minister announced that over the last 10 years, tax collections have more than doubled. She also pointed out that the average processing time of tax returns was reduced to 10 days this year. Now, let's talk about FDI or the foreign direct investment. The government said that the FDI inflow during 2014 to 2023 was $596 billion, which means this is twice the inflow that we saw during the time period of 2005 to 2014. For encouraging sustained growth in investment, the government is negotiating bilateral investment treaties with foreign partners in the spirit of first developed India. Now let's talk to you about some sectors that saw big announcements. Let's begin with railways. The Finance Minister announced that 40,000 normal rail bogies will be converted to Vande Bharat to enhance the safety, convenience and comfort of passengers. Key rail infrastructure projects including Metro Rail and Namo Bharat will also be expanded to more cities. Let's talk about green energy. Towards meeting the commitment to net zero by 2070, the government said the viability gap funding will be provided for harnessing offshore wind energy potential for the initial capacity for 1 gigawatt. Coal gasification and liquefaction capacity of 100 metric ton will also be set up by 2030. Now, this will also help in reducing imports of natural gas, methanol and even ammonia. Let's move on to some other sectors like Prime Minister AWAS Yojana Gramin. The government said they're close to achieving the target of 3 crore houses. For the next 5 years, additional 2 crore houses will be taken up under this scheme is what we heard from the government. Let's move on. Rooftop solarization and free electricity. The government said that 1 crore households will be enabled to obtain 300 units of free electricity every month. The government said that savings of about 15 to 18,000 annually from free solar electricity and free surplus to distribution companies. Let's now talk about housing for the middle class. The government here said that they will launch a scheme for deserving middle class people either to buy or build their own houses. Let's talk about the announcement that came from the medical sector, medical colleges. This we heard from the government that they plan to set up more medical colleges by utilizing existing infrastructure under various departments. The government also said that vaccination will be promoted for girls aged 9 to 14 years for prevention of cervical cancer. Let's talk about Ayushman Bharat. Healthcare services under the scheme to be extended to all Asha and Anganwadi workers and helpers. There were announcements for various other sectors like maternal and child health care, where we heard from the government that various schemes for maternal and child care to be brought under one program for better synergy as far as implementation is concerned. There will be upgradation of the Anganwadi centers and Poshan 2.0 will be expedited as well. Let's move on now, talk about agriculture sector, again a focus by the government in the past years as well. The government here said that they will promote public and private investment in post-harvest activities. This includes aggregation, modern storage, efficient supply chains, primary and secondary processing, and even branding. There was also an interesting announcement as far as reforms in states is concerned. A provision of rupees 75,000 crore as 50-year interest-free loan is proposed this year to support the milestone-linked forms by various state governments. The government exuded confidence of them coming back to power and reiterated what we heard in the review that came just a few days before this interim budget. Since it was an interim budget, there was no economic survey, rather an economic review that the government presented of what they had done over the past decade. So the review that was issued by the Department of Economic Affairs was called Indian Economy a Review. It said the country will become a $5 trillion economy in the next 3 years and can aspire for a $7 trillion economy by the year 2030. It also said India would grow faster than 7.2% in FY24, even as the world economy struggles to grow at more than 3%. The review also highlighted that this would be the third straight year when the Indian economy would grow by more than 7%. It also said that India is the third largest fintech economy in the world after the likes of the UK and the USA, and that India has also overtaken Hong Kong to become the fourth largest stock market in the world. Now that brings us to the end of this video. Do tell us in the comments of what you thought were the top hits and misses of this interim budget, and more importantly, what would you like to see in the full budget that will be presented in the month of July. Do not forget to share this video. We will be back next week. Till then, do follow One Finance.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.